Today, I will be talking about the new 2020 iMac, how it compares to my previous 2015 iMac, and why I chose to upgrade despite major internal and external changes coming to the entire Mac lineup in the not-so-distant future. Hello everyone, and welcome back. My name's Timik Stolars, and although you can't tell from the outside since Apple decided to release their latest installment of the iMac with the same old design, here is the new iMac 2020. To most people's dismay, this is the 9th installment of the iMac that Apple has used the exact design on, which dates back to 2012. In addition, the iMac design from 2009 was very similar, albeit with a thicker body. The thinner display in 2012 and the Retina display in 2014 really are the only major changes that have been made to the iMac's appearance. That is a lot of iMac versions to be released that look the exact same. However, like any decent person will tell you, beauty really comes from within, and the internal specs on this machine are amazing and beautiful. Personally, the omission of a much needed and overdue facelift in the iMac lineup didn't come as a complete surprise to me. If you haven't heard already, Apple announced in June 2020 that over the next 2 years, they will be phasing out the current Intel and AMD chips found in the iMacs and releasing new computers with their Apple Silicon chips. These chips can already be found in the iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watches and are very fast. With these changes coming to the whole lineup of Mac computers, it makes sense to me that Apple would hold off on an iMac redesign until they did the internal changes as well. So the question I and many others had to ask is why upgrade now? First and foremost, this computer is a complete monster, especially compared to this 2015 model. I upgraded the CPU and GPU on both these models, and this is how they compare. This one has AMD's new 5570 XT 16GB graphics card that was an extra $625 and is a serious upgrade over this old 395X 4GB graphics card. This card is from AMD's 5000 family, which has significant improvements to encoding and decoding graphics related tasks. This new architecture even allows this card to outperform the Vega 2 32GB graphics card in some situations. The Vega 2 is an upgradable GPU in the Mac Pro that costs $3,000 alone. Then we have Intel's new Comet Lake 10th generation 10-core i9, which was a $500 upgrade. This 2015 iMac only has 6th generation and only a quad-core i7 processor. And moving on to storage, something that was definitely a welcome addition to the new 27-inch iMac and even was the only change that made it into the 21.5-inch iMacs was having solid-state drives as standard. Really, these upgrades are a little late to the show for such expensive and high-performing machines, but they are here now and that's all that matters. I chose to upgrade my base 512GB to 2 terabytes of solid-state drive for a whopping extra $750. Quite steep given the fact that you can get 2 terabytes of SSD for $300 off of Amazon. But this old iMac has 2 terabytes of Fusion drive, which is a mix of hard drive and 128GB of solid state, so I knew 2 terabytes would be the minimum for me. Moving on to RAM. The base models all come with 8GB, and I will be installing 32GB in my new model, while I only had 16GB in the old one. Choosing the right amount of RAM for my needs was a difficult task, and it took a bit of research. I even ordered 64GB over 2 sticks of RAM after thinking I may need 128GB of RAM one day. But after doing a little bit more research, I came to the decision that 64GB would likely be the most I ever need, and I would start with 32GB over 2 sticks, which could be sufficient enough. Check out my video here where I go into more detail about RAM, how much is necessary for what applications, and which setup I ended up going with after I did some testing. Thankfully, Apple lets you install your own RAM on these machines, giving you the opportunity to purchase third-party RAM at a massive discount. The 32GB of RAM upgrade only cost me $200 on Amazon, and it's extremely easy to do. Check out my video on how to change the RAM on your iMac, as well as a link to the RAM I purchased off of Amazon in the description below. Going this route was almost 4 times cheaper than the $750 Apple wants to charge you for the same type of RAM that offers zero benefits. Another massive bonus to this lineup of iMacs is the inclusion of the T2 chip, with the iMac being the last computer to get it in Apple's lineup. Although officially the T2 is a security chip that helps protect your information, its interaction with the rest of your iMac's components provides a noticeable improvement across the board. This is because the T2 chip is its own processor that is the middleman between your main processor and your operating system. So not only does it act as a second barrier of security to protect your data, its operation also affects how the components of your computer work, such as better sound coming from the same set of speakers, increased quality in recording audio from the microphone, and most importantly to me, a major boost in performance for video editing, especially for H.265 HEVC videos that have higher levels of compression than the older H.264 AVC codec. And lastly, other upgrades to this iMac include a UHS 2 SD card reader, which is almost 3 times as fast as the old UHS 1 card reader, new studio quality microphone, and a 1080p webcam. An upgrade I didn't opt for was the nano texture glass that is Apple's version of a matte display. Instead of being a film or a layer of coating on top of the regular screen, like other non-reflective options, this matte display is lasered into the screen itself at the nanoscopic level. Because of this process, Apple's matte display doesn't face similar quality reduction that a coating would, like shifted colors or reduction in contrast. Or at least that's what Apple says. From what I've read, user experience is in fact that there is a reduction in contrast, albeit not as significant, as well as a reduction in sharpness and viewing angles. On top of that, it's extremely fragile. Apple specifically tells you to never use any cloth besides the one they provide. That means if you lose it, you have to buy a new one. And you can't use any water or liquids. Those rules are easy enough to follow, but how often are you talking, sneezing, coughing in front of your screen and things are getting on it? Or accidentally brushing it with a finger or a hand saturated in our humanly oils? I think over time these screens will not last as long as the standard glass, and they are already so bright, it's easy to overcome the reflections. Understandably, some people do work near windows or in bright spaces where they can't control the light. But unless this is your specific case, or you're willing to live in the constant fear of wrecking your expensive screen, then I would personally use that money to upgrade the CPU or GPU or even get more SSD storage. Price comparison wise, I purchased this 2015 iMac approximately 3.5 years ago for $4,200 Canadian, and this new 2020 iMac was a bit more at $5,750. Definitely a hefty sum, but understandable given the muscle under this machine. And yes, I know I could build the same PC for half or 2/3 the price, but for video and photo editing, as well as music production, the Apple ecosystem is the basket I've placed all my knowledge and experience eggs in, so I have to deal with the premium to pay for these components. Although specs wise, this was a massive upgrade for me, there was still more to this purchase that I had to think about before making my decision. Clearly, this will be the last iMac with this design and with chips that aren't Apple Silicon. When they end up removing the bezels and the chin on these machines, the screen will be closer to probably 30 inches like the XDR display. This iMac that comes in 1 to 2 years is going to be a very beautiful machine, but it is still a ways away. And with this new release, it solidifies the theory that it will likely be one of the last to get the upgrade. On the other hand, the 21.5-inch iMac will likely be one of the first to get the overhaul redesign, which is clearly the reason they didn't get an internal refresh this time around. They clearly built this 2020 iMac to go out with a bang, and it's the computer that they've been working on to perfect over its 11-year lifespan. There's a level of stability and dependability that comes with that many refinements. This will also be the last iMac that you can bootcamp Windows on, which is a big deal for some people. It's also hard to say how well the transition will go as we move from Intel and AMD chips into Apple Silicon. Yes, developers are already working on this transition to make it as seamless as possible, and having everything built by Apple could bring some serious performance boosts as they optimize, or price reductions for similar performing machines due to lowered costs in production. Not to mention, as I said before, the iMac 27-inch being likely one of the last iMacs to get the upgrade, they will have a few chances to make mistakes and learn from them with the MacBooks and the 24-inch model. I think it's fair to say that Apple isn't above making mistakes, and there could very well be bumps in the road. Apple is also promising to support these machines into the future, likely for longer than most of you will even want to hold on to your current machine. Not to mention, what kind of power will the CPUs and GPUs have in 2 to 4 years? As new and more powerful components come out, the software that they power will also require more and more juice. And for these reasons, I was happy to invest in a machine that's this powerful and is the best and last iMac we will ever see. Thanks for watching if you've made it this far. I appreciate you spending this time with me. And if you found this video useful, it really helps me out if you leave a like and a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the iMac. Are you waiting for the Apple Silicon version with the fancy new design? Or are you like me and decided that Apple was providing enough value with the raw performance that this machine has? Take care and I'll see you next time.